That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a few quick announcements before we get started. So, just a reminder, we are still affiliated with Hopewell Farms CBD, Omnia Radiation Balancer, and Merlin's Lab Orgone Pyramids and Colloidal Silver. All three of those are great products, and all the links for those can be found below in the description and on our website. But we'd like to give Hopewell Farm a little plug today. They have incredible CBD. I actually just started using it again. That's what reminded me to even talk about this. But I forgot how much I liked it and how much it actually helps me. I took a break from it for a while and I'm using it again. I'm like, oh, this stuff is really good. And they set intention and they grow all their own plants and they're talking to them and setting intention while it's growing. They bottle their own products. Um it's all done ethically, morally. You're getting it from a very positive, genuine source. And we absolutely love Nancy and Eric, and we can't promote their products, say enough good things about their products because they are truly amazing. So if you guys are looking to try a new CBD or a topical ointment, even, they have some incredible stuff, and you can save 10% off all their products with promo code Journey to Truth 10, and that link is below in the description. The Omnia Radiation Balancer is a patch that you put on any radiating device, and it harmonizes the EMFs that are coming in and actually turns it into something beneficial. Essentially, the test results are proving that it's actually, turning this frequency, it's balancing the frequency and harmonizing it, turning it into something beneficial for your body. It does not block the radiation. It's working with it. It's like a scalar technology. You can save 10% off all of the Omnia products, including the pendants, and they have different size patches now for headphones and different things. You can save 10% off all their products with promo code TRUTH, all caps. And just a quick reminder, I will be speaking at the XCon event in Springfield, Missouri, October 11th through the 13th. I'll be giving a presentation on the history of the secret space program. I've been working on that presentation. I'm really excited. So if you're in the area and you want to come hang out, that link is below in the description as well. And we hope to see you there. There's so many other things to announce, but we're just going to jump in and introduce our guest today, Mack, aka Parsi X, and we'll let him explain that. But he is a lifelong ET experiencer, and I know we interview a lot of experiencers, but his testimony, his story is very unique in the sense that, a lot of people have fun, exciting stories. They like to talk about this stuff. It's not great for everybody, but it's been a rough ride for him, but it's also been a learning experience. And you're really like coming through the flames right now and stepping forward. And I think it's a brave move for you because a lot of people, it's hard to talk about some of this stuff. And we really appreciate what you're going through or what you're doing and what you've gone through. So we're happy to have you here. If you haven't seen him before, he was just recently on Jeff Mara podcast, which was that was huge for you and a great way to get your story out there. So I recommend everybody go check that out. But welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tyler, Aaron. It's a dream come true. I've been a huge supporter of your work since day one, and I always kind of dreamt that one day I'd be able to be on your platform and tell my story. So I was able to manifest that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks for reaching out to us and being persistent because a lot of emails can get lost in the mix, and to be honest, it's sometimes we just forget to get back to people. It's hard to keep up with it. So persistence pays off. And here we are doing this, and I'm very excited to get into this. The whole story is incredible, but I like how, ultimately you came to the conclusion that this is an astral war, right? And it has everything to do with the future of Earth. What's happening right now is spiritual war in the astral realm, and what you've learned from your experiences and through, hypnosis and all that. So eventually we'll end up there talking about this astral war. But before that, I guess we'll let you tell your story. What happened, starting from day one, childhood, and how you got here.
Yeah, sure. So my background is Parsi Zoroastrian. So Parsis are an indigenous race of Iranians, and they were persecuted 3,000 years ago. They were told to convert to Islam or die. So most of my ancestors fled. Most famous Parsi in the world is Freddie Mercury. That's why I chose the moniker Parsi X, because I wanted to be anonymous when I first come out on my experience or journey. So we follow a religion called Zoroastrianism, which is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, religion in the world. We're a minority of people. There's about 50,000 of us left worldwide. Son of a Navy man. I have a twin brother. So we grew up in Mumbai in India, and we never had any exposure to UFOs, aliens, anything of that sort. And I remember the day, I'll never forget the day till the day I die. It was 12th April 1991, and I'll get to why I know that date. The time was around 9:15, 11 years old. And the way I can describe it is we lived in an apartment building that was 5 stories, so we were on the 3rd floor. And the way that the apartment was shaped was we had a wraparound balcony outside of the apartment. So you could literally walk the length of the apartment and the balcony simultaneously. So 11 years old, just focused on girls, not a thought in my mind about UFOs or aliens, playing with my He-Man toys, listening to my Saigon Kick and Alice in Chains. And I hear this really deep hum that rattles my bones. It's like a whoa, whoa, whoa. And I was like, wow, what is this noise? So, I'm compelled to go out on my balcony, on my room balcony. And when I'm out on my room balcony, what I see blows my mind, because it's opposite so we lived in a place called the Parsi colony. So it's an open colony with buildings everywhere. The building opposite me was at least 7 stories high. So I was estimating that this craft was slightly higher, so maybe 10 stories high. So perfectly egg-shaped, like an American football-shaped craft. It was huge, and it was just there in the sky with lights around the perimeter, and the lights kept going round and round. And my 11-year-old mind was just shattered when I saw this thing. I was like, am I dreaming? Am I actually seeing something like this? And then something really weird happened. In the middle of the craft, a square window or a portal opened up. And from that came out like this 3-fingered pudgy hand. That's all I could see. And the hand was waving like this. So, when you're a child, someone waves at you, what do? You wave back. So I'm waving back at this thing. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this thing is so close to me. How come nobody else sees this thing? And this thing is stuck up in the sky and then starts moving to my right. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to catch this thing out on my balcony, on the wraparound balcony. So I run out from my room, go through the living room, head out on the wraparound balcony. And what shocks me is not that I'm looking for the craft up in the sky that's still there, but it's my twin brother having the same experience at the same time with his hand up, waving at this thing. So me and him are standing right next to each other. We're like, do you see what I see? And he's like, yeah. And we're waving at this thing in the sky. And this lasted maybe about 10 minutes in total, because I was checking the time. And then it literally was there, and then it flew off into the clouds very slowly. And I think it was the first year we started getting MTV in India. So we were kind of exposed to music, and I may have heard the word UFOs or aliens on MTV. So that was my only point of reference. So we ran inside and we're like, Mom, we saw a UFO. My mom is like, 11-year-old kid's full of shit, okay. But this is what she did, right? In her wisdom, she said, in the days of no social media, no digital cameras, you go in one room, you go in the other room, you draw what you saw. To freshen our minds, we draw the craft. I bring my drawing to my mom, and she looks at it and says, oh, okay, it looks like possibly you've seen something. But it's when my brother brings his drawing and she puts 2 and 2 together, she gets that shock, and I can see it in their eyes because it's exactly the same thing.
Wow.
And it was an intense experience, because after that experience, I started experiencing what you call orbs, or what we call orbs. So I'd be eating dinner at night, and I'd get this voice in my head saying, come outside on the wraparound balcony. We need to talk to you. So I would go and walk the length of the balcony. I'd be drawn out to walk, and then I'd be looking to my left towards the horizon. And then these 2 stars would come down in the distance, and they would be following me. So for the longest time, for 3 months, all I did was walk the balcony and I let them follow me. And then one day I tried this thought experiment. So I'm standing there, I can see both the lights, and I say, if you could move right, and it moves right. And I'm like, wow. So I asked the one on the left, I said, if you can move left, can you move left? So it moves to the left. And I said, can you cross each other? They cross each other instantaneously. And then I got really scared. I was like, no, this is some voodoo crap. I'm not gonna engage in this anymore. I was really scared. You know, when this happened from 11 to I think about 13, and I just like kind of gave up. I'm like, I'm not gonna think about this. I'm not gonna worry about this. And then from Mumbai, we moved to New Zealand for a few years. Nothing happened that I remember in New Zealand except for sleep paralysis. Like I would wake up, and I would always be very close to my twin, so we'd be sleeping in the same room. So I'd wake up and I would see a being that what I would describe as a sort of a gray hybrid with wispy hair and big eyes, always crouched down looking at my face. And I would be scared out of my mind. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm seeing here. And I was never religious. So we grew up in this religion called Zoroastrianism. We went through an initiation ceremony. The tenets of the religion are based on good thoughts, good words, good deeds, always doing good for people. And we wear a vest called a sadra and a string called a kasti, which is like our spiritual armor. And I gave up on that. I said, I don't believe in religion. I'm not going to wear any of that. And that's when my life started taking a really, really negative turn, human wise. So bad experiences.
Right. Sorry. You're going through all this very quickly, and I have some, I have some questions. Sure. Really quick, just for the people listening, Aaron, if you're wondering why Aaron's camera is off, it's because he's on a hotspot today, and the internet's very laggy, and it actually uses less bandwidth whenever there's no video. So he's still here with us. You can say
here. Hi guys. Sorry. Something came up. We just switched internets, and our new internet went out today, and they can't get here till tomorrow. So all I have is a crappy hotspot. So that is why I'm audio only.
But you're still here, and that's what's important.
Still here, though. Yes.
So I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning. You said your father was in the Navy. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was in the Merchant Navy. Okay.
So have any of your experiences along the way been military related? Or is this...
Not that I remember from my father, but I have some memories that have come up for myself. I've had an astral projection where I've been in a military base and I've seen them working on those metallic orbs, which I can get into a little later. And I have a memory of being around a manta-shaped craft, purple craft that was hovering over the ground. And I remember the memory of touching the craft. It was actually alive.
Really? Like an organic craft, right?
Organic craft, yeah.
What did it feel? Do you remember what it felt like touching it? Because a lot of people described it's almost like a whale blubber.
It was very soft, and I can remember the ridges on the craft. It was almost like a honeycomb ridge. The whole craft was shaped like a manta ray. It was off the ground. It was humming. And I got that memory sitting on my couch one day thinking, holy crap, this memory just came up in my mind that I'm in a military uniform and I'm touching this craft. When I go to touch the craft, it kind of recoils like a little puppy does. But it comes back to me and I touch it and it's glowing. And the next day on X, Weird Synchronicity, they put out this article that Lockheed Martin has these, what's it called? It's got this kind of a skin that's growing around the craft, or it's got this craft that changes its skin. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to David Adair's testimony and what he was shown in Area 51, it was a craft, like a biological craft. It was very much alive and organic, and it was like a tissue. And even the Black Triangle craft, if you read the Sands of Time series, it describes those craft in detail, and it says the hull of the craft feels like a whale skin. It's like soft to the touch, but that's how it can withstand the heat of the atmosphere, coming and going. So obviously it's a very, very sophisticated technology, but is it possible that you could share your screen and show, because you said you and your brother drew pictures of this craft, right?
Oh, I have more than illustrations, my friend. I've got photographs of the craft
Oh, do you really?
coming up to him. I've got photographs of orbs. I've got wild stuff. So let me go share my screen. So this is the craft here. I'm just gonna see if I can. So this is my my mom's testimony. It says UFO paintings done by my twin sons on 12th April 1991. Boys saw UFO at 9:15 on our balcony. They rushed to the kitchen where I was and highly excited tones tell me to come and have a look at something like a UFO. It was too late and the UFO went as fast as they came. I thought these 11-year-olds were pulling my leg, but they were so convincing. I told them to paint a picture, date and time, put them in different rooms. Paintings are not the same, but you can see the similarities. Explained about the hand-like thing. You can be the judge. So these are my mom's words. So I asked my mom to dig this out and send this to me. So this is mine. So almost like an egg-shaped craft, and all these weird lights around the perimeter. And the lights were humming the lights were going off as the craft was humming, and it was just like a deep hum around. And then all of a sudden, this window opens up in the middle, like a portal, and I can clearly see a hand like this. And this reminds me of those tridactyl beings that, you know, the Peru mummies that they've been showing the fingers of, the mummified fingers. So I'm kind of trying to put two and two. It's all speculation. I don't know what this little thing here is. It might just be a detail that we forgot. And then here's the cool thing is this is my brother's drawing, which is almost identical to mine. If you can see both of them together, lights on the start. He's put the word the flash. We've got the same time, 12th April 1991, 9:15 p.m. And Wow. He's got the same hand.
That is amazing.
And then I got this gentleman by the name of let's have a look here, Olaf. I got him to illustrate the craft for me, and he did a fantastic job of trying to visualize exactly what I'd seen. Okay, so this is a very good illustration of not so much the outside area, but the craft itself. He's done a fantastic job. So the ledge of the balcony was concrete, and there was only one building, and it was just above the building. But he's done a fantastic job. As you can see, it's literally like 99% accurate of what we'd seen up in the sky.
Wow, that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
he's done that.
So, okay, you guys had this experience, and then after that, you started seeing the orbs, and the orbs would follow you and all that stuff. And you know, you kind of left your religion, just, and I think that's where you were with the story. And then we can continue from there.
Yeah. So after that, we moved to New Zealand. And when we moved to New Zealand, I had the sleep paralysis happen. Didn't think anything of it. That's when things started getting weird. Okay, so then we moved to Queensland, Australia. And so my memory of these people was a little fuzzy. I thought they were the owners of the house, but they were actually renting the house from us. So it was a rabbi, his wife, and his child. And I remember the day that my mom said, just go get the keys because they're moving out. So I went to the house, got the keys, thought nothing of it. Now, 3 months after we finally moved into this house, me and my brother are sleeping in our room. And while we're sleeping in the room, I wake up at about 1 in the morning, 1:30, and the physical sensation that I get when I wake up in the morning is somebody's at the edge of my bed. So I'm going to show you guys an illustration. So this was done by Olaf, just a rough illustration. So I'm sleeping and I can see clearly there's 3 people at the edge of my bed. Now, I can see the golden outline of this rabbi to the detail. I can see his sideburns. I can see the wife holding the baby. And the physical sensation I got was, say if you're on public transport and someone's right up in your face and you're like, you know, back away from me, you're kind of in my space. I got that feeling of intrusiveness. So I closed my eyes and I started praying, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm seeing spirits. You guys need to leave. And I was praying for 15 minutes and they were just standing there. Nothing was happening. And that was a time of my life. It was very difficult for me. I was going through I've been through a bit of abuse, physical abuse, and just overall bad luck during that phase of my life. It was my early 20s. And I would always get this really heavy feeling in my chest, like I was at a very depressed stage, but it was a crushing sensation. So I tell my mom the next day, I said, "Mom, you're not going to believe what I saw. I saw this, I saw the guy that was, living here. I saw the rabbi with the baby and his wife, and they looked like they had a golden aura around them." And she's like, "Oh man, we speculated that they must have passed and come back to the place that they were living." So we're like, yeah, we were thinking about it for a while. It was really disturbing. And so I asked my twin brother, "What did you see?" And he didn't say anything to me for 3 days. I'm like, "Come on, bud, gotta tell me what you see." But what he tells me was completely different. So he says that when he woke up, he saw a giant winged creature. I shit you not, a giant winged creature like a gargoyle or a bat sitting crouched down on my chest. And the creature was, I don't know what it was doing. I'm speculating it's probably just like a reptilian attachment that was on me. When my brother noticed the being, it looked at my brother, got angry with big red eyes, spread its wings like a bat, and eventually flew off. And I was saying, "Man, did you see anything else?" And he's like, "No, I didn't see anything else in the room that day." So I thought about it for quite a while, and I was thinking that perhaps the people that were at the end of my bed were kind of protecting me or overseeing this being that was sitting on my chest. I don't know what it was doing, whether it was sucking out my energy, but we speculated over the years that the ones that were at the end of the bed were like spirit guides that were kind of protecting me, so to speak. So that was that experience. And then nothing really happened. So that was in our 20s. So I'm 44 going on 45. And everything started getting interesting after COVID. So during COVID, I had no work. So I was sitting at home, putting on the pounds. I put on 150 kilos, 300 pounds with no work, listening to Journey to Truth podcast every single day, every single episode. And then I decided to change my life around. So I went for this thing called a bariatric surgery, weight loss surgery. It's basically they tie your stomach up and make it smaller and you lose the weight. So almost immediately after the surgery in March 2022 is when I started experiencing what we call a Kundalini awakening. So I would get the pressure in the forehead. I would look at my hands and I'd be like rubbing my eyes. What's going on? I can see a golden aura around my fingers. So I can sense the energy coming out of my hands. Now take from this what you will. I was sitting right here in this spot one weekend watching TV. The blinds are down. I feel my hands burning. So my hands start burning. I feel like this energy in my hands. And I can perceive what looked like orange rays of light coming out of my hands going towards the TV. And I was rubbing my eyes. I'm like, I'm going crazy. What the hell is going on? I need to get some answers for this. So I started going on Project Avalon forum, Carrie Cassidy and Bill Ryan. So Bill Ryan's forum, I joined the forum, started speaking to people, and I said, "Look, I've got this, I've got these symptoms," and they're like, "You're having a Kundalini awakening." And then I was realizing that I was losing the physical weight, I was losing the spiritual weight that I was holding on to. So my eyes really started opening up. One day I was walking in Melbourne City, trying to cross the road from work, and I had a time dilation effect that happened to me. That was the first time. So I'm standing there at the lights, waiting to cross the road, but I can see people crossing the road, and all of a sudden they go from regular motion to slow motion. And I was like, am I tripping balls? What's going on? Like, I'm opening my eyes and I just see them moving really slowly. So literally time slowed down for me. Then I started doing research. Oh, people have gone for these regression sessions. Maybe I should try one. So I looked up Dolores Cannon, and that really intrigued me. QHHT, past life. Never ever thought of any species of aliens. I heard of reptilians from David Icke, but I thought, at that time, there may be something to it. Like, I wasn't invested in the phenomenon as much as I am now. So then I just phoned this random lady, and I said, I need to come for this regression session. Have you ever had what's called an experiencer? She's like, yeah, 1 or 2. So I went for this regression, and this is where it opened a can of worms for me. I was not expecting what I learned in this regression. It completely blew my mind. So As soon as I went for the 5-hour regression, I could feel my hands burning, and it's never stopped since. So I can feel the energy emanating from my hands. The person that was sitting opposite me, the therapist, I could see her face physically change. And she said, some people can get that. It's not my physical face. You're seeing my energy body coming out. There was a cat with her. The cat was going crazy, sitting right next to the regression bed. Cat could sense something. The lady could sense something. She said, you have, your spirit guides here. Now, this is where the fun starts. Get into the regression. And from my mind's eye, I can see floating over a crystalline pyramid, a see-through pyramid, and the skies are purple. And I myself am a spirit, a golden spirit that goes through the pyramid. While I'm going through the pyramid, there are other souls rising through the pyramid, going up. I'm the only one coming down. When I'm at the bottom of the pyramid looking outwards at the sky, a word forms, Lyra. Beyond that word is it looks like a feminine being. She looks like a gray being, but her eyes are almost like elongated with pink and purple swirls. So this is what I drew. So this is how her eyes looked. This is right after the regression. So they were very, very detailed. And the word Lyra came up. And then I asked my guy to illustrate what I saw. And that's kind of what I saw. That's what she looked like. So I asked this person, I said, who are you? And she goes, I'm your Lyran mother. Your soul originated in the Lyran constellation. And I was like, okay. As soon as I got that image, then things started taking a turn for the worse. And this is the most traumatic part that I have a hard time speaking about is I feel my hands, my eyes are closed, my hands start burning, and I look up at my hands, and they're human hands. And as soon as I turn my hands around, they turn green with claws, massive reptilian hands. Now, as a child, I used to get this recurring nightmare. I would see a door, a wooden door with 2 flames, and I would never go through that door. Always had that nightmare. I don't know where it came from. And I would wake up. I would never want to go through the door. So this door turns up in the regression, and my reptilian hand pushes the door forward. And what I see is, it was extremely traumatic. Sorry, I kind of get emotional when I speak about this.
It's okay.
So I opened up that door and I saw, it's like a literal reptilian feeding session. So they were feeding on lower life forms. They were feeding on humans. They were holding humans. I was holding a human child and feeding on the human, literally like a shark feeding on, on another being. And it was almost like a ravenous hunger. So I'm feeding on the beings. Then the memory completely shifts to me in my reptilian form, standing on my craft. So I'm standing on my craft and I'm looking outwards. I'm looking outwards towards the stars. And that's when I realize as a reptilian being that I'm starting to develop a soul. And I realize that reptilians don't actually have souls, but it's like a cliche, you are what you eat. So I was consuming humans and other life forms, and I started developing this soul. And the next memory of the regression is, again, it gets even worse. I find myself lying down on a metallic table in a craft in my reptilian form. And all I can see are these purple lights and my body being dragged into a room. I can't see what's going on. It's dark. So the regression therapist says, push yourself to see what's going on. So I feel a pressure in my temples and I tilt my head backwards and I see what I can describe as a short gray with its hands around my temples. Then I look in the front and that's when things get really shocking. I see my reptilian feet with the claws. They're being held down by what I describe as 2 tall grays. There is a draconian reptilian in a black or a purple cape standing at the edge of the bed, laughing at the procedure. And I call this a procedure. Behind him is what I would describe as a mantid being on a computer screen doing something. I suddenly feel a convulsion in my chest, in my reptilian chest, and I see this golden light being pulled out of the chest. And they put it into a glass jar. And this is what it looks like. So I asked Olaf to draw this for me. it's his depiction of what I went through. So that's me in my reptilian form, and that was the soul scalping procedure that was done, just to give you an idea.
Wow.
So they take out this soul and they put it in a glass jar. And after that, my regression goes hazy. It goes weird. I start talking like the being. I start channeling the being. So this lady, God bless her soul, she was freaking out. She says, "Who are you?" And my voice goes down and I say, "We are Siakar." And I was like, where the hell is all this coming from? And I said, "We are Siakar. My name is Rakkhh from Alpha Draconis." And I said, "Now you know our secret. Now you know our plan. And if you say any of this to anyone, we will kill you." And I'm saying this in a regression to my therapist. And she was freaking out. Then all of a sudden, I started saying that we're always around. We're in the shadows, but we've seeded our image and our ideology in your media. And you need to watch a movie called Jupiter Ascending, where we speak about the true agenda of the earth, which is what we are. We're basically like farm animals for them. Now, you probably heard this before, but I'd never heard any of this. And I was speaking as the being in my regression saying this. And I said, go and watch the movie again. You learn the truth about, off-world humans. The reptilians in that movie are shown as second-class citizens doing the work for the off-world humans. There's the adrenochroming that they're doing. One thing they don't touch on is the soul scalping, which I'll get into. Now, this is the really woo stuff, which on other platforms I can't really discuss because people just can't seem to acknowledge what I'm saying. So I keep telling her, you have to watch this movie because this movie is the truth. Someone's paid, $200 million to get this truth out in the form of a movie. Go and watch it because everything it says is the actual truth. This is disclosure, but it's masked as entertainment. So then towards the end of the regression, the therapist asks my higher self, why did you go through the suffering of a reptilian life? Why was it so traumatic? The things that you saw in your mind. And then I asked myself, is there good and bad in the world? So my higher self said that when I was born in the Lyran system, Lyrans only knew the concept of good. They never knew the concept of evil or malevolence. So they never appreciated the good. The soul is on a school journey. The soul is forever. So in order for me to appreciate the light, I had to reincarnate as a reptilian. So I went from a Lyran to a reptilian. So this is just the physical form of the soul consciousness experiencing another life, which we call a malevolent life through our eyes. So in order for me to appreciate the light, I had to go through the dark. And then I said, well, why did you reincarnate me as a human? And they said, as humans, it's one of the most difficult lives because every day you wake up, you have a choice. You have a choice to do good. You have a choice to do bad. And I said, I choose the light. I reject the reptilian past life. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm a good person. I want to be good for people. And then again, I asked my higher self, is there really good and evil in this world? And my higher self ended the regression by saying, there is no good. There is no evil. There only is or is not. That is all. Which meant to tell me, when I reflected on those words, that we all have a choice at the end of the day, and that good and bad are constructs of reality, of human reality, that we put a construct. If we're eating cows and chickens in KFC and McDonald's, how do we know that the cows and chickens don't think of us as malevolent? Same way with the reptilians. They're just doing what they're genetically predisposed to do. They have to eat like the rest of us, so we see them as malevolent. So that thinking I had to get away from, that all reptilians are bad. There's bad humans as well.
Mm-hmm.
So after that regression, things get really, really weird for me. I close my eyes. I see the reptilian eye, I see the face. I hear their voice. So one morning, Sunday morning, wife's cooking pancakes. I'm sitting right here and I hear this voice in my head saying, Draconis, remember who you are. And I'm like, get out of my head. I don't want to hear this. And they said, no, remember who you are. Remember who you are. And my hand started shaking and I told my wife, get me the notepad really quickly. And I started doing automatic handwriting. So I drew this, I don't know, chicken scratch, and I drew this symbol and these words. I have no idea what that means. But when I put this up on X, this triggered so many trolls. People were going crazy, abusing me when they saw this. It looks like a portal. For me, it looks like a reptilian eye, but most people said it was a portal. After that, I quickly turned the page, and then I drew this, which I showed you guys earlier, which is the Lyran eyes, because I remembered them fresh. Again, they don't look like typical gray eyes, as you can see the detail. So if you were to look at these eyes, it would look like oil on water, the pink and purple swirls that you see. That's how detailed they were. And here's the kicker. So I started drawing these symbols, the eye and the triangle. And people have told me that these are pedophilia symbols, right? The triangle and the triangle. And
right.
I don't know what to make of it. I started drawing all this. My drawings are really, really rough. Sorry. So that's like the hand of the reptilian with the claws that I remember. And then the fun part was this one here. So I started drawing the eye. I thought I was drawing the eye. Ended up being the self-portrait of me as Rakkhh, the reptilian. So I started with the eye. My hand was possessed. I ended up drawing the teeth, and it's still a work in progress. I'm still scared to look at this thing, because it looks so real. The energy is so negative in this. The attention to detail on the scales, on the horns, on the ridge, it's just insane. So this was affecting me really badly. My mental health was going really bad. And then, I kept seeing these eyes, kept hearing the voices. So then I came across, again, synchronicity or something guiding me, Joe Dispenza's meditations. So I started doing Joe Dispenza's meditations. I live next to Melbourne Airport, but the flight path, remember, is not over my apartment. It's going from left to right, so I can see planes and helicopters.
Right.
So I go out on my balcony and I meditate, and outside the balcony is always Orion's belt, the constellation, and I'm really drawn to Orion's belt. Now is when the fun starts. I start meditating. I'm not thinking of orbs. I'm not thinking of craft. I'm just thinking of self-healing from the reptilian attachment. The orbs start showing up right around Orion's belt. And when they first started, it was just like a flash or fly across the three stars of Orion's belt. And I wouldn't think anything of it. I was like, maybe it's a satellite. Then it was happening more and more. First 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 1 minute, and then I started filming them. So when I would start filming them, they would disappear. So I would ask them. I remembered when I was a child what I did. I said, do I have your permission, please, to come and film you? And they would say yes. So I would end up filming hours of different orbs, blue, green, red, orange orbs. So the first few days when I filmed the orbs, and I can share my screen because it's important for you guys to see this.
Yeah, that's fine. And I have a few questions too, going back
sure.
Going back to the regression. So the hypnotherapist, what was her take on the session when you were done? Did you talk to her about it?
She was a bit rattled. I said, "Oh, can we do another session?" And she said, "You'll have to wait for a year," which was a polite way of saying she didn't want to do another session because it was pretty graphic. Like it was 5 hours long, and I'm trying to keep everything out of the woo as much as I can because the feeding was pretty graphic. Like the stuff that I saw, I wouldn't wish upon anyone to see. And she said after the regression, she said that you will have a physical reaction to these memories coming up. So, and I didn't understand what she meant. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So after the regression, all these memories were flooding back, and I was driving home. I went home. I immediately had a sore throat. My eyes went red, almost felt like I was going to vomit, flu-like symptoms for a day. So she said all this would come out. And that's when I started having, the visions of the reptilian being that I was, the name that he gave out, the voice in my head, all the drawings that I ended up doing, I've never done before in my life. There's another one as well where I just drew the reptilian eye. I'll see if I can find it.
So you started having the physical, so she knew that was going to happen. So she must have experienced this with other sessions before. I mean, that's fascinating, and that's a lot of detail for a regression. I've done a number myself, and I've gotten some pretty accurate detail in some cases, but I feel like some people really, really are shown something that they need to see in such specific detail. And obviously, you needed to see that so you could let go of that aspect of even like break free from that. And I mean, I was like, it was absolutely fascinating. And the Jupiter ascending, right? Okay.
Yeah, this eye is so detailed. When I close my eyes, I would see these eyes staring back at me. Yeah, and you, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Jupiter ascending. I've watched that movie a number of times, and I can't help but to feel that it's very much real. And I even wonder, now this is, you want to talk about woo. I've when I watch that movie, I get such a feeling that there are scenes from that movie filmed somewhere else that are not on this planet. And I really wonder that about a lot of our Hollywood films. If like sometimes, we're not seeing a green screen. Sometimes they're filming something somewhere else and we wouldn't know any different.
Yeah, we
Right.
wouldn't, and most of us have the wool pulled over our eyes. We're just so busy, like, earning a 9 to 5 life. But that's the struggle for experiences is we live like 2 or 3 lives. We live this normal 9 to 5 life, trying to put food on the table, trying to rationalize everything, and then you have the ontological shock of multitude of experiences that you try and rationalize, and you're living a lie on the inside. So it's really mentally affecting. And then I live a third life, which is the observer life, trying to balance these two lives.
Right. Okay, so where were you on the story? You were getting ready to share your screen and show some orbs or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. So I'm going to show you some. So this is one of the orbs there, if you can see. So it's a very rough picture of an orb. So here's the really weird thing. After these orbs started showing up, so that's the first orb. I had a second orb show up, which I thought was like a drone going across the sky. So I filmed it. When you film this orb, it looks like a red light flashing through. But when you take screenshots, like pictures, and you put a filter through them, what do you see?
Face.
Hold on. A face, yeah. So that was a face of a gray alien in an orb right there with the eyes and the mouth. And it gets wilder. The day after this happened, now remember I said that there's an airport close by and there's helicopters and planes, and I thought nothing of it. The next day that the week that these orbs happened, I started recognizing helicopters going over my place, and I'm like, why the fuck are these, pardon my language, helicopters going over my place? And then I heard a really weird helicopter. It wasn't the engine, it was just the whirring, whir, 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 whir. So I said, let me go outside my balcony. I go outside my balcony with my phone. Aaron, Tyler, I shit you not, I was shocked to the core. This is what I see right outside my balcony. The freaking black helicopter right above my house.
It's hovering?
It's hovering. It's so clear as day that I can take a photograph of it. It was literally so my building's about 7 stories, so this would have been at least 20 stories up, so maybe 20 feet up in the air. So all the classics of surveillance. Maybe I'm paranoid, but this started happening right after the orbs.
Right.
So then after this happened, my brother basically says he lives in Queensland, and he says, oh, you remember the crafts that we saw as children? They came back. And I'm like, how come? So basically he was getting off the bus and he got a telepathic message saying, look up. He looks up, and when he gets off the bus, he just uses his phone and takes 3 pictures. And here's one of the pictures here. So you can see the streetlights. You can see one of the crafts here. Okay, so this just looks like a dot, right? It doesn't really look like much, but this is what blew my mind. There's multiple craft in this photograph. And if I zoom in, you can kind of see. And then there was another picture which I'm trying to find, and I only have the close-up, and that's what it looks like.
Wow.
It's that freaking egg-shaped craft. And this whole picture is basically the same picture, but with a street light on the side. So I'll try and find it. So all this stuff started happening.
So didn't you capture a black triangle next to the helicopter, or was that a different type?
I did. Yeah, that's a different story. So this is my brother's story. Now, after these experiences, sorry, I started getting the helicopter surveillance like crazy. Just not these ones, any kind. So as soon as I'd go out meditating, helicopters flying over my place. Cloudy nights, I would try and experiment. I would just go out and meditate. As soon as I went into the meditative state, I would have a helicopter coming straight at me with the headlights on. As soon as I pull out my phone to film them, lights go off. And I have everything on camera. I just can't share every single thing on here. Otherwise, it'll take hours. We'll move on then. So after that experience of the helicopters coming through, I reached out to James Barkley. So I started doing research. I'm like, James, man, I have this reptilian past life. I saw your interview on Journey to Truth. You're speaking about black helicopters. This just happened to me. But we haven't been able to connect to speak further about this. But he said there's definitely something there. So then after this, I was like, you know what? I need to meditate more just for my self-healing. So in November 2023, Dr. Joe Dispenza released Walk for the World, the meditation. And as soon as I did that meditation, the first time I did that meditation, the owl synchronicity started in my life. So as soon as I meditated for 1 hour, opened my eyes, the image of an owl being came to me, which is this one here. So a very rough drawing of the owl being, the nose is a little bigger, but it's supposed to be smaller. But I just drew this as soon as I saw this in my mind's eye. The next day, after this image came in my head, we go off to an antique store for 3 hours. I kid you not, for 3 hours, all I see was figurines of owls, illustrations of owls, pottery of owls. And I started documenting these, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Why am I seeing owls all of a sudden? So I told my wife, like, I'm not feeling well, we need to leave. The week after that, I find out about a guy named Chris Bledsoe. I get his book, I read his book, Owl Synchronicities, owls related to the phenomenon. I was like, oh my goodness, this is like, something is literally guiding me step by step to get these answers. So then I'm like, I really need to find out what's going on. So I reached out to Mary Rodwell and said, Mary, we need to do a regression session. I need to know what the hell is going on because all this information is a jumbled mess. So before Mary's regression, on a weekend, the helicopters started again. And I got everything on camera. So I bring the receipts for everything I speak about. Went outside on my balcony. I'm like, why is this fucking helicopter outside my place on a Sunday morning, hovering over my place? So I pull out my camera and I take a 4-second video and I take some shots with my phone. This is what my instinct tells me to do. As soon as I finish taking the 4-second video and I come in the house, my body starts shaking, feel like I'm getting PTSD and anxiety. And I tell my wife, like, I don't know what the hell's going on. What's wrong with me? I think I saw something. So we look at the photograph, and in the photograph, you can see the helicopter flying over my house. And right above it, guys, in the back is a little black triangle. And it was absolutely shocking for me to see that black triangle in the photograph. So when I saw that black triangle in the photograph, I'm like, what the hell am I seeing? Is this a TR-3B? Is this some kind of craft? So I tell my wife, let's look at this 4-second clip on the TV. And she's the one that spots it. She breaks down frame by frame the 4 seconds. You can see the helicopter fly off, but then you can see the TR-3B craft turn white and in 4 seconds fly right behind the helicopter. It's the most crazy thing. So here's the helicopter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's the little TR-3B right there.
Right. Wow.
Okay. So then if I zoom in, that's what it looks like. And if I put a filter through it, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And then this is the screenshot from the 4-second video. It's all on X, and I'll send it to you guys. If you want to break down the video, like in 4 seconds, you can see how this craft turns white. So imagine how fast these things are. You can't see it with the naked eye. You need an iPhone or a phone to film and document these things.
Right.
So this is when I had severe PTSD after this experience. And my wife's like, you're not going to go out of the house. You're going to stay sitting right here on the sofa. And for the next 3 hours, all I heard, crazy amount of helicopters outside. I don't know if I was going paranoid, but what this experience was. So then I had my regression with Mary Rodwell. Finally, our stars aligned. And in this regression, what I experienced was the most profound experience of my life. Things that I'd never learned before, that I finally learned. So in this regression, Mary asked me, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, is what do you want to focus on? And I said, I want to focus on this current life, this current soul incarnation. So in this regression, I find myself in a grassy field, and I look to my side and I see a really tall mantid being in a purple cape. Even the previous regression, the mantid was wearing a purple cape. So I don't know if it was the same one or if it was a different one, but this one was really ancient. He was standing with like the old walking stick, and I thought he was really ancient. So I look at him and I say, what are we doing here? So he's got these weird claws. So he puts one of his claws on his mouth and does this. And he puts his other hand on my heart, and the other hand, he points out at Orion's belt. And I look up at Orion's belt. From Orion's belt comes down this golden craft, this triangular craft that comes down. And from the craft come out these three beings. The face is that of an owl, but the body of a man in golden armor. Three of them come out from this craft. And they say, come with us. And I'm like, come with you? Where are we going? So they just said, come with us. Don't talk too much. So I go in the craft and we fly off the planet. We're flying off the planet, and I can see in my mind's eye something that looks like the sun, and we're flying into the sun. So I asked them, I said, why are we flying into the sun? And in their words, through my regression, they said, we're not flying into the sun, we're at the all. And I said, what do you mean by the all? They go, the all is God consciousness, as you call it in your language, in your English language. And I said, why am I here? And they said, we are all fractals of source. We all are fractals of source, of a higher consciousness. And I said, well, who are you? Like, what's your purpose? And they said, we call ourselves the guardians of souls. And I said, what do you mean by guardians of souls? Why are we here at the all? What's my purpose? And they said, look, you are on a soul incarnation journey right now in human form, but your soul belongs to us, to the avians, to the carrions. So I said, look, I've been through a Lyran past life. I've been through a reptilian past life. Now you're telling me I'm part of the avian group. And they're like, remember what we said, we're all fractals of source. So when you're born into the system, into the universe as a soul, you can reincarnate as different beings, live through these different lives. And I said, well, why do you call yourself guardians of souls? They said, we're also the keepers of souls. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And this is when they said something that blew my mind. They said, we're fighting a war in what you perceive to be the astral realm. We call it the Astral Wars. And we fight this Astral Wars against two species of beings that you call the reptilians and the greys. And I said, can you please elaborate what you mean by that? And they said that the greys and reptilians, when they try and manifest on Earth, they can't manifest in 3D form. That's why you always see them in a plasma form. It's very difficult for them to live here in a 3D reality in our matrix. So how do they live if they want to live on Earth? They build hybrids in their craft. So they take people, they take out the semen, they take out the eggs, they build these hybrids. But now think for a second, the hybrid is just an empty shell, right? What do you need in the empty shell or the empty phone? You need to juice that phone to make it work. You need a soul in there. So they also abduct people, and they do a procedure called soul scalping. So they take either a fractal of the soul or the entire soul. They integrate those hybrids on planet Earth. And I was like, wow, so what's my role in all of this? And they're like, you're the messenger. You need to be able to spread this word that there is a good side out there. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And they said that this is the war that they're fighting. And it's a spiritual war in this realm. And you need to be aware of this war. It's something that most people won't be able to comprehend, but you need to be able to speak your truth with conviction. So then I got out of the regression, and I was itching to illustrate the being in the craft. And I just couldn't illustrate the being in the craft. Like I got off the regression with Mary. Mary said it was a very profound experience for both of us. I went on to Bing AI on my phone, and it's almost like, I don't know if AI is sentient as well, but when I put in the prompts, golden-headed NHI with a beard, with a golden armor, standing next to the all with a triangular craft, I got the most powerful image in my life that AI generated. And so to the T of what I saw in my eye, it generated the image of this being. It looks like it's got the shape of a human, and it's pointing to the all, to God consciousness, and these are their craft. So this was amazing for AI to be able to generate this image. So I've got this image now up on my YouTube channel.
Well, AI pulls from the database of all that exists, so that would every time I asked AI to generate them, it would generate them like these benevolent, wise beings. Wow.
So then after this experience, I started going on X Spaces speaking about my story, and there's a guy named Dr. Jack Sarfati, 80-plus-year-old physicist. He's very, very opinionated about people and things, claims to have worked in the crash retrieval program. So I asked him on a space, I said, Jack, I like you. You're no filters. I said, Jack, what are these orbs that I'm seeing? So he says these orbs are a third species of NHI that we know of. And this is on a recorded space. He says, oh, yeah. Government knows the third species are orbs are a form of NHI that are fighting a war against these underground aliens. And I said, are these underground aliens the Greys? And he goes, yes. And I was like, wow. Then I hear another podcast with a UK experiencer who says the same thing with Linda Moulton Howe, that there's 16, 17 different species and there's competing agendas. And then day before yesterday, I watched Dr. Michael Sala's channel, and I watched this lady called Jalila Star.
Mm-hmm.
And it just freaking blew my mind. She spoke about how the higher density beings first manifested as these carrion avians that created the reptilians, that created the humans. And she speaks of this astral war to the T, and it absolutely blew my mind. And I have to find a way to get in touch with her, because I'm not the only one with this information. So other people, it's almost like we're having a point of convergence, that people are getting this information coming through. Now, I've seen donut-shaped craft. Like today, Ross Kotag posted a picture of a UAP that was shot down over Canada, and it's almost like the same craft that I saw over my head. It's like a C, like a donut-shaped craft. I see orbs in my house. Just a few days ago, I had the presence of an orb being in my room, and I took a video of it, and you can see the face of a lion being, or what I perceive to be a lion being. It's so detailed. You can see the eyes, you can see the cheekbones, you can see the nose, the mouth, and it looks like a lion being.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to certain people, and they said, these are your Lyran guides. They're coming to you to tell you that they are here. I also get negative aspects of the phenomenon. So I get scratches on my back and I get scratches on my hand. So it's almost like I'm being pulled by this negative side and the positive side.
Right.
A lot of things happening.
So I want to go back to something that you said in the other interview. Whenever you started doing the Joe Dispenza meditation, you said every time you would do those meditations, that's when all the reptilian stuff would start to happen. And I was like, oh, that they're trying. So anytime that we start to break programming, like break out of that shell that we've been in our whole lives, right? And actually go beyond that and start to remember who we are. There are, whether it's reptilian beings, entities, government agencies, whatever, non-government agencies, they come in, they send people, they have eyes on all of us, right? And they send people or entities in to basically keep you at bay. They know when people are breaking programming, right? And that's why even, targeted individuals say they can't leave their hometown. Every time they try to do that, something happens. That's exactly what I think was going on there. I think that they saw you actually putting in the work and expanding beyond your, 3D perception, and they didn't want that. Would that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, so there's definitely the negative side is definitely like I've kind of taken my power back from the reptilian side because anytime I feel the presence, I tell them, I don't want you guys in my life. And I do these Joe Dispenza meditations. They're better than seeing any psychiatrist, which I am seeing on medication because it's so much information, so much to deal with on the inside. And you can't speak about this to normal people. But I came to an epiphany that if I don't speak my truth, I'm just going to suffer all my life. And my purpose in life is not to be famous or anything. I want to be able to speak about this to break that stigma so that people can say, hey, this guy is just like me. Let's speak about this. Let's break the stigma. And so these are the scratches on my back just last week. So this is an interesting story if you'd like to listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I woke up in the morning and I got these scratches on my back, all the way in the back, but going down like this. And I told my wife, like, were you pissed off at me or something? Like, why are there scratches on my back? And she's like, I don't know. Why are there scratches on your back? She's like, are you seeing someone else? I'm like, I'm either working or at home most of the time. What's happening? So I'm like, let's just document this. So that day I was going to go speak to an experiencer in Scotland that I connected with on X. So I'm telling him, yep. He's like, we need to speak. And I'm like, yeah, let's speak. So two things, really weird things happened right before I spoke to him. So I get into a meditative mindset when I know I'm going to have an interaction with the phenomenon. I don't need to go into a meditative state. I can do it automatically, but I don't want to make the claim that I can summon orbs and all, because that's like putting a target on your head. So I just say they come to me when I'm in a meditative state, right? I don't want to make any tall claims. So almost immediately before going for the walk, I go to kiss my wife goodbye, and I reach out my hand and I tell her, see you later. And I feel a sting on my arm right here. I feel a massive sting, and I was like, what the fuck was this sting? And this scratch manifests on my arm right in front of my eyes.
Wow.
Okay? This is right before I'm seeing the guy, right before I meet the guy in the park. Well, I'm listening to him speak about his experiences. Now, anytime I speak about the phenomenon, it knows you're speaking about it, which tells me that we may be living in a simulation matrix because it'll mess with you. So you guys must have heard about orb flashers that flash you in the sky.
Yep.
And a lot of times you cannot film these flashers.
No.
But
by the time you see them, they're gone. Yeah. By the time you see them, they're gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So this time they were flashing me multiple times. So I was able to pull out my camera and actually film them for 2-3 minutes, just going crazy with the flashes. So my mind was going into a meditative state, and I'm listening to the other experiencer, but I'm hearing him, but I wasn't listening to him because I was in this meditative state, and I'm just transfixed by the flashes of the light. They're like, we're here. And this is the screenshot of the flash, as much as I could clean it up on my phone. And this is literally the phenomenon flashing me and saying, we're here.
Wow.
So that conversation lasted for half an hour with him. I went home. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning, and the scratch had disappeared the very next day on my arm. So it's almost like it literally, so it hasn't disappeared, but it healed. You can see how quickly it healed.
Right.
So I really didn't know what to make of that experience. So
and that was just like last week, you said?
Last week, yeah. And then 2 days ago I had the orb with the lion face in it, which I can also show you. And that was bizarre as well, because you can't really see majority of these close-up orbs, the spirit orbs, with your eyes. So I need to use my phone. So I would basically just put my hand up, and it's right up here. It's very faint, but I'll see if I can do a close-up of the orb. So I did a close-up of the orb, and I almost did like a filter. And you can see the cheekbone, you can see the eye, you can see the nose. And then I had people reach out to me and send me kind of like a illustration of what they saw. So again, if you can see that. So there's a guy named Olaf, and he just drew over what he saw, and it's literally like the face of a freaking feline being. And then there's another, that's a picture of the orb through a filter, and you can see the cheekbone in the eye right there.
Mm-hmm.
And this orb was about this small. And then he kind of illustrated over the orb itself. He said, this is the kind of face he sees.
Wow. So what do you make of all this today? I mean, it sounds like you're still in the middle of it. You know, this is something that's been heavy, obviously, and I think it's amazing that you're able to share this, but where do you go next?
So where do I go next? The more I think about aligning, so I get messages from my higher self. So my higher self, like I said, why do we always look up at the stars? Why do we always look out at the universe? And literally this message came in my mind. It says, the universe you seek outwards is the universe within. And I was like, wow, so this is what I'm doing. I'm on a soul journey right now to know who my true self is. And I'm under the speculation, or my humble opinion, that we are all pretty much fractals of this higher source. The higher source basically wants to experience life. So it gave itself out, dispersed itself through the universe as different life forms, gave itself free will. And with that free will, you then have the yin and the yang. You have the, perceived good or the perceived bad. And in my life, I try and find a balance of all things, because when I went public, people were saying, oh, you're seeing orbs, you're praying to these orbs, you're demonically possessed. I got a lot of vitriol from people on X, and it really affected me physically and mentally. But then when I was being vulnerable, what I found satisfaction in is hundreds of people reaching out to me on my DM saying that you just coming out and speaking of this has helped me remove the stigma or the burden in my life from what I'm going through. It may not be the same, but it's similar. And then the people ask me, like, how come, we have a point of convergence where, we see orbs or we see craft, but we lies with different beings. And I tell people that the phenomenon is predominantly consciousness manifesting as different forms to different people based on your beliefs, based on your experiences. And it's an exciting time to be alive. Disclosure has already happened. It's happening. And I tell people, disclosure is going to come from we the people. Aaron, Tyler, you guys are, warriors of the light, and I've been following you guys for so long because you've stayed to your truth. You've been resilient. They tried to cancel you on YouTube. You still came back. And people resonate with that because people are tired of the bullshit. I think COVID gave rise to a lot of sadness. We lost a lot of people. I lost my aunt and my uncle to COVID. And one of my powerful experiences is also my aunt's spirit orb that I've filmed, green orb in the park. And I've got photographs of it as well. It's pretty fantastic. I've had interactions with my aunt for 6 minutes as orbs. I've got a video on my YouTube channel, 6 minutes of her flying all over the place. And they're not satellites because I have a satellite tracker and I'm a fairly rational guy. So people will always say, oh, these are just satellites or drones or planes. How come they only show up if I'm thinking of them, right? And no other time.
Right.
And then I'm not the only one. If there's other people in the area, they see it too. The phenomenon manifests even when we're speaking about it. So if I'm speaking about it on an X space with other experiencers, like my buddies Christian and Paul in the States, they started this experiencer space support group. And we found that the more we were speaking about the phenomenon in the spaces, the more we were both simultaneously experiencing orbs. So I would have red orbs flying over my head. I had my aunt's spirit orb flying, for 6 minutes, and they would allow you to film these experiences when they were happening.
Going back to what you were saying about what COVID brought, you said it brought rise to obviously the sadness, but there was also an awakening that came out of it.
Correct.
Too, right?
Correct. Yes. So it people call it the Great Awakening. And that is the truth, because people had time to sit down and really reflect on their lives. We're so conditioned to just believe in success, that our parents said, success is you going and getting a job, paying your bills, paying your mortgage, getting married, having children. But that's not me. That's not the life that I envision, even though we're kind of pressurized to do it. And then in the period of COVID, people started questioning every single thing. And that was a danger to, the NWO, to the world governments. The harder they're trying to push their narrative, the harder we're fighting back now. And there's no going back. There's no going back. The world is really awoken now. So many of us are awakening. And in that process, I think my purpose now is just to keep speaking my truth, no matter if people, put in the comments, oh, he's schizophrenic, or he's, praise the Lord, Jesus, hallelujah. I don't care about that. I'm free now, in a way, because I'm able to now put my face on camera and say, I've had these experiences. If you've had these experiences, come and speak to me. Let's support each other. Let's elevate each other, because there's so much division, even in the UFO community. On X, there's so much chaos. There's so many narratives. There's the doomer narrative, or there's the love and light narrative, but nobody wants to find a balance in the middle and say, hey, if NHI are mean and evil, newsflash, buddy, so are the humans, right?
Right.
So we need to find a balance in our lives with everything.
Well,
and
I think absolutely
Beautifully said.
beautifully said. And I feel like that's been one of the driving factors behind keeping the podcast going. It's hard. We're over 5 years into this, and it's a major life commitment. And there's times where it gets stale sometimes, where you're just like, man, like every week. But we have these conversations, and they like lift me and they boost me, and then like, oh, this is why we do it, and we get the amazing feedback. But ultimately what keeps us going is I see all the division, and so does Aaron. We see it, we talk about this all the time, and we feel like it's our duty to be a voice of reason in the midst of all this. So like when people don't know what to believe, they can come find us, and we're not telling anyone what to believe. We're interviewing, anyone that wants to share their story, and let them decide, and instead of telling them what is going to happen, because we don't know. And Aaron, if you want to, I feel bad you have your camera off and you haven't been able to chime in as much, but what are your thoughts on this whole conversation and everything?
Dude, it blew me away, man. Your information's amazing. Your experiences are amazing. Thank you so much for speaking your truth and sharing it with the world, because we need that right now. We need people like you that are brave and that are having these experiences that are connecting to something more beyond the five sense reality, connecting to their higher self, to all these things, that are seeing the reality beyond the matrix. We need as many of them to speak up as possible, because like you said, we are the disclosure. There is no anything outside of us is not real disclosure. We see this kind of like limited hangout, false matrix disclosure that's kind of happening right now because of the times we're in. They know all this stuff is coming out, so they're trying to get ahead of it and steer it towards what they want, right? Well, sorry, too bad, because guess what? The awakening's happening, like we just talked about. Consciousness is raising. People are speaking their truth. They can censor as much as they want, like they've been doing, but you can't kill or censor consciousness, is the way I like to put it, because you censor 10 people, well, guess what? 100 more people just woke up, and a bunch of them are now speaking their truth. Now you got to they're playing whack-a-mole and they can't keep up. And even if they do, they're just waking up more people, because now we're all seeing what the system that we've been in, we're seeing the truth and the lies. Many of us, for the first time ever, we're awakening. We're like, oh my God, there's the world that I thought, reality, what I thought was the truth is not at all the truth. Like there's all this other stuff going on. And people like yourself are a massive, massive help in that, and a warrior for the truth. So keep it up, man. And your experiences blew me away.
Thank you, guys. I'm just a normal, humble. I have nothing to gain from going public, but for me, keeping this it was very detrimental. I was almost suicidal. I was ready to jump off the balcony so many times, but People say, oh, the NHI are so bad. And I say, use your common sense and discernment. If they were so bad, we'd be gone. I mean, if we are constructs of 24 species, that's only in physical form. The soul cannot be corrupted, is from what I've learned through my regressions and through my contacts with these avian beings that speak to me. They come to me as orbs. I mean, if you go through my timeline on Twitter, you'll see so many photographs of different things, different shaped craft, plasmoid sentience. So when these things come to me, it's almost like it's telling me that, yes, we are out there, but you have to be ready to look. It's only going to show itself to you if you're ready to look. Most people are always looking this way.
Right.
Nobody's ever looking up at the skies, right? And it's funny how, like you said at the start, manifesting your destiny, because I followed you guys from day one, watched like almost all of your episodes, and the three that really stood out for me was Nigel Impey, the benevolent reptilian. So I was in touch with Nigel.
Oh yeah.
I saw your interview with Tony Rodriguez, which I've seen quite a few times. He's very impactful. Kathleen, the lady, Kenner, the lady that helped Tony with his book.
Oh, Jackie
Kenner.
Jackie Kenner, yeah, that was amazing. And the most amazing one that I saw recently was with Zay San, and I was like, oh my God, his story was so amazing that it's because of you two brought this story out that I was like, man, my wife's going to kill me when she finds out I'm going to buy 8 books of his. So I started with 2 books.
Yeah, they're great.
So I've got so many books. And then these beings, they said, you got to write a book as well, but I'm just so lazy. They said, I said, what am I going to name my book? And it just came to me in my head. They said, the book and your YouTube channel is going to be called Fractals of Source, but my book is going to be called Fractals of Source, My Conversations with the All. So it's very profound for me because, I was never religious, and now, I'm not religious now, but this emblem that I'm wearing, it's a Zoroastrian image of the god Ahura Mazda. But you will notice that this emblem is also in Sumerian and Anunnaki symbology. That's why I'm wearing it, is that we're all connected at the end of the day. And the woo aspect of this symbol here, this thing we call the Farhor, is that it shows up in Sumerian culture, it shows up in Mesopotamian culture, so many different cultures. The winged creature, always at the top. I was reading a book by Dr. Michael Sala, this whistleblower called JP. And he's got 3 books. In the second book, I opened up a page and I was blown away. So JP goes underground to the ant kingdom, finds a giant sleeping in there, ascertains that this giant is a Sumerian giant called Ningishida. And they have the artwork of Ningishida and the Tree of Life. And in that artwork, you can see not only the avian owl beings that I'm seeing that are pointing in my regression, but you can also see this emblem right at the top of it. I'm going to see if I can try and find it really quickly. So I found all these weird connections, to bloodlines. And then there's this guy named Cliff High, which you guys should probably know about. Cliff High is pretty out there, but what if he's telling the truth that, whatever is coming in 2027 is them, the Anunnaki, the Elohim, whatever we call them. And that's why governments are panicking worldwide, saying, shit, we better get this information out one way or another. Right. Because you can't stop it. So.
Exactly. They know what's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the picture.
Let me show you.
Oh, sure.
So you see that? That picture blew my mind because you can see the same emblem right at the top. Right. Right at the top. Right there.
Yep.
Right at the top there. And then you can see these avian beings that are pointing exactly like I saw in my regression. And I see this after my regression. So it's all these subliminal messages saying join the dots.
Yeah, and they'll keep happening and they'll keep showing up. It's like what I call the snowball of synchronicities. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's just so much like, how do I even tell the story? Eventually you just stop talking about it. You're like, this is my own, And
yeah.
But no, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you. The regressions, the recall from the regressions. The recall from the regressions are incredible. Like I was captivated when you were telling those stories. It was like I could see it, and I felt like I was viewing some of that while you were telling those stories. And you know, you speak from the heart, and I love the way you're sharing this information. And you're just, you know, you're an authentic guy, and we really appreciate that about you. And we just can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing. And
Yes.
can you let everyone know about your Twitter handle and all that stuff and where they can
Yeah,
find you?
sure. My Twitter handle is just the word Parsi 2_X, and my DMs are open if anyone wants to follow me. I don't block people. If you're going to troll me, I'm just going to ignore you. But I'm here to help people, and I'll end this interview by a very powerful quote that I learned as a child. When I saw this gentleman as a child, I thought it was a waste of time. But now when I look back at it, it really reverberates in my soul. It's a guy named Jim Rohn, who was Tony Robbins' mentor. Now, some people, you know, Tony Robbins, they're controversial. They say he's a cult leader. I don't think of him that way. I've done the whole, you know, unleash the power within. I've walked over the coals and everything to help myself. But Jim Rohn, I met Jim Rohn in Auckland, New Zealand when I was 14. My mom used to work for a company called Herbalife, and he was doing these motivational seminars. So I have a photograph with him when I was 14. Now that I look at that photograph, I say that was the greatest gift of my life, because he said something that I will live my life by, which is it takes all of us to make each of us. Each one of us can't be successful by our own. You know, it takes all of us to make each of us. And I always say that even on X. I say, you know, together we're stronger, and together we are the disclosure. It's never
Wow.
going to come from the government. It's us.
So true.
Yeah, that's
That's
absolutely
so true.
beautiful. I love that.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I can understand why you live by it, because I mean, it is true. You know, you don't want to look at everybody as competition. That's what we're born into, right? And like
Yeah.
being a business owner, like you go to these seminars and stuff, and it's all about outdoing your opponent, and it
Yeah.
turns it into competition. And it's like essentially like you're like stepping on the backs of others to, you know, to climb your way to the top, and then eventually no one's going to be there to
And then
catch
you
you on
have
the
no
way down.
friends.
Yeah.
Right.
No one's
Yeah.
going to
Right.
be there
Yeah.
to catch you whenever you inevitably fall. So if we all just support each other and like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, you do that conference, you do this, whatever. Let's all do this. We can all do something. And the abundance that we receive, it can't be really spoken. It's just something you feel and you notice in your life. And that's just exactly what, you know, fits what that quote
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, it takes all of us to make each of us. And I'm eternally grateful to you too, because you're part of my life journey as well. And, you know, I mean, you may not know that people are watching, and people appreciate both of you for what you're doing. You're both the warriors of the light. So thank you so much. Really
Thank
appreciate you both.
you. Thank you so much. That's so encouraging and humbling and amazing to hear. Thank you so much. That's incredible.
Yeah, you nailed it. Encouraging. Like it's amazing to hear that and feel it, you know, to
Yeah.
get that feedback, because it's hard sometimes, and it's exactly stuff like that that keeps us going. So,
Yeah,
Yes.
I know it's hard, but the thing is, you know, you've been through a lot, and I won't mention it on the channel, but you know, you had some people that came on that weren't who they said they were. You fought through that. You know,
Oh, yeah.
your phoenix is rising through that fire, and you know, people put you down, but there's people that still believe in you, and I will always be one of them. So for me, this is like a dream come true. I was always dreaming that one day I'll speak to you guys, maybe off
Ah,
the channel. I wasn't even expecting to be on the show. I mean, and I'm not doing this for popularity. I'm just eternally grateful that this moment in time manifested, and it was meant to be. So I
mhm.
appreciate both of you. Thank you guys.
Absolutely, man.
thank you.
Yeah,
We're
we love
grateful
you, man. Thank
it worked
you.
out as well.
Love you too, guys.
And there's no question. I mean, we'll see each other in person somewhere at some event, and we'll be hanging out, and it's going to be
Absolutely.
amazing. You're going to be
Yes, for
calling in
sure.
orbs. We're going to be, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
Definitely.
Yeah. I was telling that to Chris Well, Chris Bledsoe came on X Space yesterday, and he gets vilified quite a bit. People think he's a grifter, but he's not. You can hear it in his voice. The pain he's going
legit.
through.
He's legit. Yeah.
And he blew my mind. He said, I said, I see these orbs as these owl beings, and he goes, yeah, the beings will come as animal faces. But he didn't. He said owls at first, then he said bull, and then he ended with the word lion, and I was like, holy shit. Chris, I just saw this lion face in the orb 2 days ago. How the hell did he know?
Right.
It's a mystery. I don't know how you decided.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
Anyway,
love of those confirmations, right?
Right.
You get it.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll put your links. You said you have a YouTube channel as well, Fractals of Source.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send you the link on X, or I'll just email it to you. So
yeah, that's fine. And we'll put all that in the description, guys. Go follow him, and just keep up the good fight, man. We really appreciate it, and thank you guys all for tuning in. We can't do this without you. And I didn't mention it at the beginning, but we are getting ready to launch ticket sales for our conference next year, next May, Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through the 15th. So stay tuned for that. Details are right around the corner, and we're really excited. We're looking forward to that. We're building the lineup now, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, guys, have a great evening. We love you. Can't do this without you. And good night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was further agreed that the alien nation and the United States would exchange 16 personnel each to the other with the purpose of learning each of the other. The alien guests would remain on Earth, and the human guests would travel to the alien point of origin for a specified period of time, then return.
Well, what shocked me was how they selected the astronauts. But they went out and found people within the military that were orphans and didn't have any family members and weren't married. Now, that's a difficult task, even in 1960.
But this became quite a mainstay in early ufology of the 1990s, given that in addition to Request Anonymous telling this extraordinary story, there were several alleged DIA or Defense Intelligence Agency officials who were also coming in and saying, yeah, we have knowledge of this case too, and we can verify what Request Anonymous is talking about.
Could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
Smarter than me. Smarter than me by a long range.